Please tell us your name.
Pala Ming Sungrona.
Tenpa Chonphel.
Tenpa Chonphel.
His Holiness the Dalai Lama asked us to record your experiences so that we can share your memories with many generations of Tibetans, the Chinese, and the rest of the world. Your memories will help us to document the true history, culture, and beliefs of the Tibetan people. Do you give your permission for the Tibet Oral History Project to use this interview?
Ne hanta pala la ya nganzu shuya las ane khonanzu kyanggu rumbu chen chartu gane ane dikabla ya ane kyanggu rumbu chen ge skonglo the dunzu ge ane lugyu dunzu ma ane dangyar che thuba yina ane maong ba pheba shuno kya mirik ane phe zambuling na la ya mi yonge changma la ya ane langa mo phebe gi lugyu ngoma gerap ngoma ane tinte nganzu rikshu ane changma mimang cho ha kho du res and di chene ane tharing nganzu tiwa tilen cheba de ane pheju tangna digir res
Digire. Singazo nga tilen de pheju tangna digire nga ma kari yoba kari chunga de shuere. Oti pheju tang chore.
Yes, you can use whatever I say today because I'm going to speak on what really happened in the olden days.
Good. Thank you for offering to share your
Yemila Kaja with the Tindaka Mare, Singamanga, the Chunga Luju to make sure. Tajula, you the Takwa, Kaja Monte, Renita, but Tinga sure. Tingo me Tomako Chavre.
I'm going to talk on what really happened, what really was in Tibet in the early days, and then what happened after the Chinese arrived, and which is all true and fact.
Thank you for offering to share your story with us. During this interview, if you wish to take a break or stop at any time, please let me know.
I'm fine now.
If you do not wish to answer a question or talk about something, let me know. If this interview was shown in Tibet or China, would this be a problem for you?
No problem at all.
Okay. We are honored to record your story and appreciate your participation in the project.
Gabu pe chons thani pala nyam dole ya dit la gati chiala gabu shoes chons sa tuche shugins
Okay. You said you would like to share with us. I'm going to wait till he comes back. It sounds like you have many wonderful memories to share with us about Tibet. What are some of the memories you want us to know about?
Ani pala phegi kogi thanda tensu mangbu yorwala and phegi gema chungbe gi tensu mangbu yorwa and tensu khashi nganzu nyam dol khari sungyarwa e khari kor shenyi thudwes
Tanga kaja ngama nganzo pu chunyu karecha, param karecha. Tanga lo ye gune ane lo ni zaka patang aje. Ngama paguluji. Ana longwa kari yo kari chigi daga kaje ngati shwe.
I want to talk about my childhood in Tibet and after I grew up, like from the age of 8 to 9 to about 26 when I was in Tibet.
So,
I want to talk about the Cultural Revolution in Tibet when I was about 22 years, and I will talk about that later.
Good. So let us begin by hearing about your childhood in Tibet. What are some of your memories?
Ani thanganzu go tsuya la pala khonglo chinju yinde phele shupe kabla yin sarwa di kor thenso khari dos lo chinju pugu yimbe kabla ya
다대가나 춘주 땅에 템바 가야 되는데 탈로 뒤에네 땡게도 팅에네 땡게면도
I can remember about my childhood from the age of 7 or 8, but not prior to that.
Okay.
What? Mandu lungbatila teore, dropata shingba Yang po chunyo ka lodu ta redo tinde to andonyo tinde tengedo.
So in our region, the people did agriculture as well as they were nomads. And I remember as a child, I used to look after the lambs and the kids.
The lambs and the baby
kids, baby goats.
That in the lodging from Judelan and Singalacha. Singalacha, Singatavia, and Singatabitan and Lombalan, Talamore, remember Jagger.
Yes, and then when I was about 13 or 14, I started working on the farm. And in those days, we didn't have any machinery, so we plowed the land with horses.
When you were a little boy and you worked with the lambs, were there many lambs in the... did you have many animals?
The Puchinji in Bekabla Palatanda Luktu Son Shugiorwa, Dikablaya, the same genta Lu Mangliore, Luktu Mangliore, Candere.
Lo da lo ta ngado te gomba korwan de tendere ma gomba ngado gomba diore ti korwa sende so yo korwa diore ngado lomba ti korwa ngado nange sende mangbo yo mare kanja ludo ta ludo lo jibja ngapje de ludo ja to ja ngapju to tende yore.
I used to look after the animals of the local monastery. My family didn't have many animals, so there were about 400 goats or sheep, and there were about 100 to 150 lambs and kids.
And what were the duties that you had to do when you looked after the lambs and the sheep?
That luktu dinde chogu yorwala. Di lega khande do ta luktu cho khande chogore khaba thigure khande re.
Tande pajutan de bare ani tongla don chen de yongu yon logo kawa don ta de sa kawa yon te do re ani ha kondo ama chodi ta ya lo ne kondo ama chodi ta re na ani ya lo da ama la pa che ure ta go lo do de lo ja ama de lo ja ani lo do so re ama so ne me ke ma do ne nga do pu de do ne mo lo do so re ani kondo ke ba ga ama chodi ta.
So when we went out with the lambs, first we looked about if there were any wild animals around, and then we took them where the grass was the best, and the mother sheep and the goats were looked after by the adults, while the children looked after the lambs and kids. And in the evening, after the adults had been milked, then we had to bring the lambs to their mothers.
To the mothers. What kind of wild animals were you afraid would attack the lambs?
Ta rida yorwa semje rida khari ge ene luglaya saga yungure kyen gyagire.
Ta je rida chengu sende yungure. Chengu se amjo tono ta chi so ta de yore.
Yes.
Inde yungure. Ya sarge tanda ta na o tende chembo ko de tende mangboyo mane chengu te mangboyo.
So we had to look out for wolves, which were many in number, really? But at times there were tigers.
Did you ever see any?
Yes, I have seen.
And when you saw them, what did you do?
So unlike the tigers that you have here, in Tibet, the tigers did not harm the people, and they used to be around on the Rocky Mountains.
Were there many tigers?
I do not. I do not know if there were many tigers around because they were in the among the rocks, but I remember that when we were young boys, we killed an old tiger.
And
I did not see a whole bunch.
you didn't.
Just one or two among the rocks.
What color were the tigers?
따든지 천rak한데래. 천rak한데도 따든지. It was striped with yellow and black.
And when you killed the tiger, the old tiger,
their eyes were yellow, I could see that.
were you with the boys that killed the old tiger?
아니 따갱고지 세로와 디냠도 부든주냠도 빨라요 왜?
Oh,
Yes.
How did you do that?
따 간데 same best.
다디 권도때 가서 다그리 된대요. 근데 다음 요거도 와. 꼭 그거에 이제 다들이 좀도. 아니 야 좀만 가도 원에 도저다. 도저는 가는 거 마좀. 내데 가고 걔도 걔 마중나 봐. 아니 봐야 또 때야 또 이제 가게 도저 가게 되게 안 되잖아. 대요도 지금 아마도 갖고 가게 주고게
One day we saw a tiger on the rocks, and we were below that, and we threw stones at it, and it fell down from there, and it almost hit me. But then after that, the boys ran to him with sticks, stones, and knives, and one of the boys caught him by the tail, and then he was killed.
I see. What did they do anything with the tiger's skin?
And the 딱이 빡빡지어라 네 가르치래.
바바지 쇼마가 나도 바바 휴송 휴니 자장샤 대고는 메가 바카초나 가자마.
We skinned the tiger and then stuffed it with hay, but later I don't know what the adults did with it.
I see. Interesting. And what about the wolves? What color? What did the wolves look like that came after the sheep?
단들 룩두 사가용에 짱기든데 여러와 짱기든지 간데다 붙이 여래.
저거 진짜 키나게 건도 레라 토고 말에 코파노라.
The wolves, they look like dogs, and you can't harm them because they can run away.
Did they ever attack any of his sheep?
아니 짱기기 빨라키나 룩두 촌에 동에든데 룩두든데 사뇽베.
사뇽 아 종종가 지중아테 템버땡에 난게 아니여와. 아니 거동아 라보다 칼라사에 고체 누르티네 마땅 디네 딱거기 다른 시와서 거디든 로여지 그래도 로가 난데가 돼야 아니 로도야 로여도 로인데 안데 라레야서 라스용가서 진짜 가오지 요제 아니 제 가는 나고도 카시네 도데 모두 메가바주 아니 갈 소담다가도 로도 정고 건데서 내가도 하고 메 정고인데 라야마고 종어자 디정고를 레고도와 아니 로도데 케자 도서 아니 키가 고데서 빠빠나바데 그가 데데 토뇨 데 마이양아 로토도 야장고주 디중아 첨바 오디어 로토도 야장고주 자 라진주 아니 가서 오도 잡도네 코파트 라데 마이지삼도 라송.
It was when I was very young. My aunt had given me food to take to the grazing field, and the lambs were moving right in front of me. And at a distance, I could see that some of the lambs were running back. And then I saw that there was a wolf, but I didn't know at that time if it was a wolf or a goat. So in another incident, when I was much older, there came a wolf and it dragged one of the goats, but then I was able to chase it away and I got the goat back, but it was injured.
And about how old was he at that time?
The first time?
The second time.
Pala tanda tuzuñiba delaya palagi tanda jangi theni lukchu rarwa. Luk mare ratchu rarwa jangi kini. Didi pala lo khajisre.
타제도 말로 구주 되려도 상아로 든 예든 로 예나 구주 로니 somde roba lugri tangai ya the low to
I was about 9 or 10 at that time because I started working grazing the lambs when I was about 7 or 8 until I was about 12, 13.
Okay. And how did you get the job to graze the lambs? How did you get that responsibility?
And pala thanda look choya gillaga deni khandischini rare.
Ati ngado tongba tangado tongba dioro. Ando tongba dinala ta me to yue cha cha me to dun yore.
Nang
khangba delia. Thangado tile yue da khangba yore dol ya korma da yo mare. Ndo ba ya ndo te ngado te gombe ke semje ko to ngado te ro. Anti da wa ja to ran do ro. Te ngado jungju kana ra lo ten de to tangere jabu sana singa la che go. Ando wa ten che yore. Te ngado te gomba yore.
That was how it was in Tibet. You know, there was about six in a family member, and then some of them had to stay back to look after the land, while the others went as nomads into the with the animals. So as a child, you know, I had to look after the lambs of the monastery.
And did the monastery pay the family to look after the lambs, or was it an obligation?
Okay. Thanda palagita gombegi luktu choga dugu yorwala. Dileya laja dawish tegire ya chogugu yore pala kyanzu lengen dawish chagi yore khandira.
Le ti lenge theure ti laja tega mare. Thangema ngadu chizo duja rendwa. Ne the zo na ujere. Ta ine te ne taraka ji tendo ngadu peje mati puj padi ya tego yore. Semje puj yoro. Tine kwando taran tego yore. Enjoy ne shoto no amato mario mate ya kaya kwa nyala theda wachani ya tego yore.
Okay, it was like a sort of tax to the monastery, but however, you know, you pay them just the butter and the fur of the animals while you can keep the buttermilk.
And was the family accepting of this kind of tax, or did they have other feelings about it?
Anita, susu nangmine michik ta dinde chini laga chini duguyora gombege. Ane susugi di doba menge dawaji sembe nalaya dikchik kali theba resha dinde samgi yore gombe laga chiga dugu dugane.
Hati ye gombe shebji ni sarga chigre. Gombe shebji ni sarga laga chigre.
Yeah, we consider it as a service to the monastery.
So, and did every family have this service, or only your family in the village?
Ane shabju shuya di pala kyunju tongsep nalaya mi shamba dunzu ge chikpa chigugu yore yang pala kyunju chikpo ge di shabju di shugu gore gombala.
Mata tende chige ngado tudang sumdo yore. Ngado tudang chigde kenda tudang ni che.
There were 3 families in the village who had to do this service to the monastery. My family and 2 others.
What made those families have that kind of service?
And nangmi sum dilaya dinde lenge kharichini kugore.
Kati ngeji ngadu chido la these gundo. Teso the do. Te ngadu ja para puram ne tinde kona.
So this was since, you know, right from the beginning when the tax system was passed on from the father to the son and so on and on.
Were there other why did not the other families in the village have to pay taxes like this in this manner?
타 탄다 낭미 난차 숨기 탄다 곰발 내가 지기여와 타 탄도게야 심바 망부여와 총셉 디나래야 난차 콘조 가르치네 아니 곰발라 셉주 쉬고요 말해
타 건도 디 소소소 가다데 고이샤요 아니 베게 한테 중고 pombo 동고 그 중도 보이 중고 니 중답된데 동고 되려와 딘데게 태다와 타 망부여래 तादो तंगोया तो खामाडो विचे को तिने ले मांगो यारे तितो गोजे रे जेते सो so the mighty yard. I can't get a lad in Ala, June and Machu Mari. Angela then can't chill Mari, so the tail of your
These type of taxes were divided by the district administrator. There are other taxes like transportation or giving horse service and so on. So our family was given this tax form, and you would do your work, and the other person would do his pay his tax service.
Oh, okay. So the kinds of tax services involved taking care of the animals. Transportation. What did transportation mean?
다 단다 체 나가면라도와 직sem진 따고야 잡고다야 직잘라 파주 깨고야 된대 요르와 빅잘라 수기 잘라래 잘라 가리 깨기 요래
사제 배송 아주 바타 마다다 투자가요 말아 야나와 따나와 텐데라 깨자 니마치게 사자 니네가도 ngö리네 파파라산도야라 해타르 모레 하네 고도 매니마 빨래다 땅에 있는 그냥 아주 그런 서서 요리 니마레 또 레살 다봉아도 서서 깨고 요리
잘라 가리게 요래
다 잘라 가르가르다 성자위네레라
수 잘라
다 종게 태두도 와 미제도나 태두도 뒤도가도 시도도 님거려
Do you want to just finish translating that? Okay? We have, because he has to stop.
Okay.
Stop. Something's wrong. Maybe the lighting is changing?
Say it. Say it.
Oh boy, we're much further away now.
잘라 가리빨라 수기 잘라 키두고요래 단다 이야다 단다 딱 키는 두고도 알아. 잘라 수기 체대교 잘라 키는 두고요래.
다가이네 거도 총제대 녀제제제 되네요.
슝기를 왜?
슝게 슝답 되네요. 슝게 레지 되네 슝게 있어요. 아직 거도 사이에다 기중다 망하다 저거 여기 말 타간다 거도 텔레아체 도나 안정만 도네 녀제제제 나 마녀위네 레제제 부람다한테 녀트레야 마케오 아니 따담 가라 제고 팅아도 빨리 태제는 소소도 태포고 이제 용데 태라랑이나 또 라랑 태가니요.
There were two types of taxes in Tibet. One was the government tax and the other was the monasteries tax. And since in Tibet there were no vehicles, so the other form of tax was transportation on yaks and horses. And these yaks and horses had to transport the things from place to place, like from Ngari to Lhasa, which is quite far away.
Okay. Had to transport the king?
Transport the things.
The things.
Things.
Okay. And what did the people get in return for paying these taxes to the monastery?
아니 타 미만 속이 슝 곰베 된다라와 타체 제기요와 타체스나 타 안주 단다 룩초야다 안데 지겨라 곰발래야 엔 추 안주라 가르라기래 곰바네 미망 촐래야
카이데 마타 곰바 타와도 미망데 타나마도 카이데 테가 마리
망자 간데 망자 땅나 찍바 땅기래
마자 땅나 땅기라
안다 체쟁이
냠도 테기래.
So there was no other form of payment from the monastery except when there were like offerings made in the form of tea and other things, that was shared with all those who even worked for the monastery.
하마송면에 보니 이미 고말 고래 타직대 고란도 뱅게요래 데베이나 타직시면에 고란 탑죠 고래 이거들 나오지고 무슨 보이래 그래 마송도 보이니 고요서요 타자 숨지 담아에는 일이 담아때 Gomba te o chuta bata so yorwa. Tati mi shiva da cheva da to da sembe lagrewa. Tati ta cheguru te to na matonga sa no to na da ragote da pavate ra na ti te yore. Tadam jagare gomba ke. Amden jagare. Ti te ne ko do te chera pago mare. Ti te mara na sembe chera pago yore.
So there was this thing called, Masum Puni, which means 3 mothers and 2 sons. It means if you had 3 goat or sheep adults with you, you had to give the monastery 2 kids, 2 lambs or 2 lambs. And if you had a third one, you could keep it. So if, you lost the 2 kids, but the monastery had to be paid 2 kids. So which means you had to, try to find one more kid and then replace it with the one that you have. And in case, so in that way, if there were 30 sheep or goat with you from the monastery, you must give back 20 kids, 20 lambs. Or if the mother goat and the sheep gave you 30 kids, then you could keep 10 for yourself.
And what was the attitude of the people regarding paying these kinds of taxes in these forms?
타 미망 돈주기 삼로라 셈베 나라와 타 딘데 체제 고두간에 가리 챙기요래 가리 삼기요래 디갑래야
타 제제 미세 다고 대ව 중에 대ව 중에 타이 타게요.
So at that time it was said that these were the taxes by the Tibetan government.
대వ 중에 세 다고 대వ 중에 남 다고 대వ 중에 아니 팀이 사대다 남대 소소소 티비타 티스스 마다야 가는 만으로 보고 말해 소소 농가 될래면 보고래 티마다 좀 다와 현장을 로 말해 양코나 레미비요래 코나 유가 라라요래 아니 나다오지네 디네 kem 당보게 도번에 거야게 되게.
So in Tibet, we used to say that the earth and the sky belongs to the Tibetan government. So which means you pay the taxes to the Tibetan government. And then the taxes were such that, if it was transportation tax, you only had to go up to a certain distance and not beyond that.
I see. And did the people feel they received any benefit from having a government that they had to support?
아니 미망 속에 셈베 나라와 다 데버슝라야 다 테디가스 제기여와 다 데버슝이 여바참기 아니 수술라야 다 펜도딘데 가리여레 삼기여레 슝 여바참기 슝기 펜도
가리여 다 가도 동안에 사신가여와 팀이사 다고 중무대와 근데 수술 신가수 따여레 제수 따 소소 페이지 시저고여레 me 강발 제베네 제베종의 강고 사자데 데이터데네 데이터는 제종의 태도가 대대주고요.
Yeah, the government, because the land belongs to the government, and we are able to cultivate the land and eat its proceeds. And if you want to build a house, you're building a house on the government's land. So the agricultural lands are all divided for each family. So this is your land and you can cultivate it every year.
Okay. All right. Big question. When the Chinese came into Tibet, they said they were trying to liberate the country from the monastery and from the government of Tibet to make the people free. Do you feel the people were oppressed?
타 게밀레르와 페나리아 게미 가릴라 브레스나르와 타 페미망라스 안주기 키란초스라 곰바다 페슝기 키란초라 강에 데바 디네 춘줄레 징주 당게 요스 라브르와 게미게 타 디콜라 아니 가리상기 요레
어다 티걸라 타 티주 가고 좋다 마도 스가 좋다 오늘 내가 태 주고요. Tiangwane ga chung, Kuli yi chen da wo chung. Ta chuma chena ko do tang do wala. Tangbo kwen da cha wo xie song.
Yeah, actually, the first time we were really happy, because we were paying so much taxes. But then, gradually they, became worse and worse.
Really?
And then we didn't believe them.
The government?
The Chinese.
Okay.
So we were very happy when the Chinese first came and said they were liberating us because we were paying taxes at that time. Okay. And we really believed them at first. Mm-hmm. But then gradually, later, they became worse and worse.
Worse and worse. Okay. So the people did feel they were paying. Had they always felt they were paying too much taxes for many generations, or was that a recent change?
타 미망초기 태되기 열와 탈로 망보네 딘데 삼기 열어 미라 망보네 때 태베 친구도 삼야다우지 레녜마네 삼기 열에야 제술이야 다 제체 다샤 삼기 열나
아니 녜마네 타레 녜마네 태도 소소 갈티네 제체고 열에 녜마네 태 남주 갈테 제원에 태고 열에 근데 제메 과도 아주 레제 다 개인의 전 대표요 타기하게 되었지 다들 뭐다 줘도 아니 가서 따니 거는 송거는 따땅자 디진 따제 선인한 디네 가데 받아야 나도 도고래 아니 제빠제 디네 거도 도고도 아니 거도 도고제 디네다 그래
These taxes were there right from early times. But it was not every day that you had to pay these tax services. Like for example, you are here and you came in a vehicle, but if it was Tibet, we would have to send yaks to get you here, and the next day we might have to take you from here till Garden Monastery, and then from there someone else will take you.
Okay. Why did the people want to support the monasteries?
아니 미망초기로 알아. 아니 곰발이야 가르치네 다직 대제기열 샵주시기열에
다 곰발에 잡지 다 맞아 잡자서 곰발어 정말 잡죠니 다 가리냐 고조 같아서로나 아니 제디데 기보용 같은 야보용 체마가 있는 남나 야보용 제가도 법에서인데 제디 라고 체마 쓰고래 제 체마데 야보용 말람다에 제도 티제슈어래
The monastery is a refuge. It is a refuge in this life and also the next. And as Tibetans, we think greatly about the next life, and that's where we go and pray and take refuge.
I see. So it felt important to have, did it feel important to have a monastery in your village, and why?
This is the 수수기 총셉 날이야 곰바 타장지여야디 개침보래도와 리베. 개침보 곰바지여야라 개침보로 와 수수 총셉 날이야. 에 가르치니 다 개침보래.
개침보래.
나 개침보 인고야 가리래. 개침보로 와 곰바지여야래야. 아니 곰바지여야디 개침보 간데체니래.
다지 건조 맹에 맞다서 가도 미도에 맞다가 망고토네 밀라마타 좀때 차자네 곰바지 곰바지 따치고 용하다 곰바메야 오용한 제대체도 누가 따지고는 메진네 이제다 존에 이제 말람타네 제대체 강마디 하고라테 나타다오네 곰바를 샵데는 제 제대체래.
So since past generations, we have had monasteries in the villages, and if you have a monastery in the village, you have good luck, and then you go to the monastery to pay when there is sickness or death in your house. That's where you go to pray and seek refuge.
I see. Okay. So the monasteries, it sounds like the monasteries provided some support for your spirit. And so you were happy to support it, or you were willing to support it. My question is, what did the government provide that would make you want to support the government? or
Ta
not?
gomba roala. Ta gomba singe dileya pa shabju shuba ena gomba susu kyapjo sarwa. Ta susu gi naza chungba ena mishin naza kari chungba ena gomba la kyapjo sa yore melam yaga dosa yore shapten chi sa yorwa. Ine pe shunge ene kari chigi yore nambutsol.
Pe shunge kai je mara kokora me labrang se tabaji labrang se ka de yore. Yugi sideng le ajen zong se ka de ka ni yore. Tinga do nyima chege sa dore dawa zong se ya dore. Tulin labrang se ma nyima chege sa. Ti ki de nga do yuji cha de yore.
So the government had a district office called the Zong, and the monastery has the Tholing Labrang, and our village was located right between them.
I see.
Dawa zong.
The Zong was called Dawa Zong.
And if you had no government, if there was no Zong, what would be different about your life?
The Pecha Shana Rwa, the Dawa Zong sing Zong de Meva Yina. The Zong de Kuni Meva Yina Rwa, and Namatsogi Chik Mitsinala Yakari Gua Kari Yorwe, the Shung Meva Yina.
Shung Meva Yina, Goji, Dani, Karine, your mother, and Goji, many of mother. Tangado, Zong Meva Yina, Adu Nana, Yunan, and Metawa Yard, and Chigi, Tada, Chidden, sometimes, Yanti, Popular, and the Goji of the Kigero.
So if there were no Zong, there would be no leaders, and we need leaders to work for the community.
What did the leaders do for the community?
아니 집발라야 가르치기 요래 한다 뱀부든지기. 뱀부든지기 집에 된다라 내가 가르치기 요래.
아주 단다라 담이 용었다면 이 제거인데 제거를 막 갖고 가셔야 뭐 가지 나가지요.
They do not have any work, only to give us orders.
Orders. And what
때문에 용대잖아. 저부터 다시 망용아 가라셔면 때때는 용대잖아. 태제 되고래. 태지면 저 용래야 용대. 용대는 그 소도 농가 같은 타우래 가서 다 내가 가려면 우려. 아니 지내네. 저 용수 저 용을 매래제 용을 나체. 간다가 건도를 매 도다 보고라.
So in Lhasa we have the Tibetan government, and there are officials who work for the government, and these people need a salary.
I see.
타마체서 즉 보고를 다시 간가라 보고. 누구 타마체 지 고베 거토이나 보고도 저 태주나 보고를 지 타마체 템포 보고 그거 망고는 뒤에는 망고차가 여들어. 아니 메레레 타면은 망고요 말이.
So there was one type of tax, which is for the Tibetan government, and this everybody had to pay, irrespective of whether you were paying taxes to the monastery. So if each person pays a little amount, then it grows up and then becomes a huge amount.
Right. So did the people of your village, did they like having a government in Lhasa?
네, 빨라 현주기
And why?
롱베 나라와 당 하고요랑 안줄 하살랑 안줄 슝요레스라네. 슝요레스 하고요라 빨라 현주 롱베 나. 하고요자 아니디 슝요바 잠기 콘주 가고요르웨.
네.
가리
같이 간다고 종고지어라. 종고지는 로숨 맞아요 말이. 뒤에 로숨 종고는 고잡요 종고 고잡 태권한테 뭐니 숨도 영어래. 뒤에는 메사트네 메사고요. 뒤에 로숨네 저어잡로 로숨 대한민국 말로 사월에 지내지. 동아대 라브랑에 대하네.
So in the district office, representatives are sent from Lhasa and changed every 3 years. Yeah, it is the same in the monastery also.
Okay. And how does somebody become a leader in your village?
다 빨라 현주 롱베 나라야 뱀복 한데스 치니 그래. 뱀복 미직 뱀복 한데스 차기요래.
뭐야?
라오.
뱀복 간자데 단전 고지한다고 이제 매년 오면도 와.
근데 그 고층에 간데스 차기요래. 그 고층에 간데스 차래.
타고 간자 미때도 되고야 주다야. 아니 유일한 미만을 매단다 편도 가려고도 제 차가 매지에는 꼭밤을 깨게 돼.
So a person who is more knowledgeable, is intelligent, and who can work for the community is elected as a leader.
Elected. So how many people or how many houses were in your village?
Pala Kyunju Chongsep Nalia Kangba Khazus Yore.
Kangba Mamara Mangata Tondu Chunjun Tere. Kangba Tetan Good Mezat and Gomba Tawasum Doyer.
It was a small village, and there were only about 9 families and 4 monks in the monastery. My village is called Manang.
And how was the leader selected in your village?
Ani pembodi khandis kugre mimangi kugu yorwa pembodi pembo khandis kugu yore mimangi. So we hold a meeting, and in the meeting we tell that person, okay, you are the leader.
And what qualities did that leader have?
아니 뱀보 딜라야로와 촉진 가리가리 좀기요래 코미 칸리지래.
다пол라 나도 미망 칼라 때오마 도도 코나코나 다냐와 나도 타와 책바리 콜라 칼라를 가야 때오마 코나코나 체리 아니 다 나도 유이되게 도다 동동도 되게 도다 아니 봄벌을 주고 나 봄부터 콘도고래.
So he is a person as same as us, and we don't have to pay him, food or any expenses. So he is like the link between the village and the leader.
The
district leader. So whatever problems we have in the village, he has to go and approach the district leader.
Interesting. What would
So whatever the district leader tells, he has to come and tell us about it.
Okay.
So he is a sort of a messenger between us.
Good. What would be some typical problems that the leader would have to handle in the village?
다 단다 뻔부지 끄그러와 소수 정셉 나라야. 다 거기 다니마 딱바지 강에 더버든데 가리 세기를 왜 정셉 나라 강에 이어버든데.
강에 진짜 영도 영어를 딱 강에 제다고 제지요 말아. 세제 샤덴 자가에는 세제 강에 잡아준 내 법을이야 쉬네. 아니 주고야도 제대로 지야마다 제다고요 말아.
There's not many problems that he has to solve. If there are any problems, he has to go and report it to the leader there.
Was there ever any crime in the village, or people breaking a law or being bad?
아니 빨라견주 정셋 나라의 미마딘데 미카시기로와 직 팀게 내가 지하를 쏙봐 직 내가 독자 지하를 쏙봐 딘데 용구여왜 팀게 내가 저보다 직 가리네게 tukbagyayare 직 징야다 직 고마gy야다 가리나다 팀게 내가 지어와라 딘데 용구여왜
딘데 용구 때 준주 딜에 용구여래 한가도 동발에 고마 잡아져 전부 되려 말 때때 비리고 군이를 딘데 여러
찰라 고마경일로
찰라 고마경한테 용구를
there were no big crimes in our village, but very small ones like petty thefts.
Petty theft. Was there any punishment of any kind for petty theft?
다 지고마 친주 경에 딘데 요르와 딘데 요르와 엔 딜레야 녜바 카리 당기래.
다지 가르치기래 아니 거는 냐바다는 담보면 다 다버도는 도고트다 태우래고 그것만 되래고 제 돈데 거는 그마치용 가리치용 가르치다 냐바
So the person is taken to Dawa Zong, and over there, depending upon the seriousness of the crime, he is punished. And in our village, mostly it's lashing.
Lashing. And who would do the lashing, and how many lashes?
And tanda nyeba shudugun tang dongurwa ta nyeba karir sungbe tanda. Teja tanya jura, teja su tangire. And teja
Tadong Kate, Chokuma Kate, Chokaja, Tevelangero. And you go Tevelane, Taco, Karakomago, Kanga Chambujun, Kumakuina, calling Yavachunju Mato Yamari. I'm going to tell the Kumajadu Jabot in your chair. Bojita de Tiltene.
Teja Shemia de Sushengre.
Tati Gado Karesana, Tabuko Kumako, the Gado Mezongo Kuni Charawa. And his own day called Tivalengero, Chokuma Kajaku. And a quato Huro. Tengata met on Uto Kumaku in Celebro. And Takote Uto Kumain, and you are Chunu Mother Maragon.
So once we identify the thief, he is taken to Dawat Zong, and the Zongpun, he interrogates the thief, and then he comes to know if it's he has done the crime due to like difficulties, in which case he has a lesser punishment.
I see. And when I'm going to make a jump here to move on. When in your family, there were how many children in your family? Mother, father, and how many children?
Palagi nansa nalaya pugu khatsi yore pala chunju imbe kawla. Palagi pala da amla yorwala. Any pingya khatsi yore pugu.
Kure tange amala de pala nangro de lawari. Ate ola ngazu de gombatan la de sa de juero. Amadi amba donga tai jo mo tini nangro yore. Tini yimza puta pu apa mani le ngaji ngaji mo yo mare. Tange pala nala pawa ke aja pinja yore. Aja ke tang ane dori tinde ke pu pomo tinde ane tinde pinja mangbo yore. Te ame nala pinja tinde ame pinja no mangbo yore.
Ne palagi palada amani mizan chik nal nyamdo diyo mare.
Mare kaya ang ado nama lawan le me nyamdo diyo. Ang ado nung bala tawag nala ane so gawar jo chik pa chik an tinde de jo no ma tinde de jo le jo.
My father and mother lived separately, and I was the only child, and I lived with my father and his sister. And my aunt had many children, so I lived with them. Okay. So in Tibet, sometimes if people were in love, they don't get married and they live separately.
They live separately.
So that's how it was with my parents.
Okay. And you said that between the age, like from 12 to 13, you were taking care of the animals. And then what happened to you at 13, age 13?
Ani pala lo chungi joksum spado ani ta lukju da semjen de cho der wala and ta lo chungi joksum ne pala khari na ya ko chure
ka do bin chu na singa la de ani singa de chu tang ta wo chu tang go re ta wo nga chu de de te ya chu de ne chu tang ani chu singa ya mo na ba do ani ba singa ta te ta le mo ba ja.
So when I was about 13 to 14, then I started working on the fields. So the first thing you had to do is water the fields, and then you plow with your horses, and then start sowing.
Okay. And how long, many years did he do that?
Ane ta lo khajis pado ane pala shingatam ni shube. Lo khaji pado.
Lo ni ju ta dan de yemi ton de tu lo la thera re ngado. Te ye ga de piga chinga ma ta bo de ye ga ko la la tang ho de. En tang ga ya ton do ju re. En de la chera.
So I was working in the fields right from age 13 or 14 until the Chinese came. So in summer we started growing the crops, and in autumn you reaped the harvest.
And can he tell us something about his memories of those days when he was working the fields? When you.
Ane palagi thanda shingle chebe kap gi thuchi ji yorwa. Di korla ti sungro nanda. Shingat tap ne shube thuchi ji. No di kap thuchi dilaya.
Tate tanga lo chukum ju ni tangbo. Ne ama tawon de shingala che ne shingan do ni tangbo ngado sa kambo de ta ko sa ya che jo do ni chu kan shingala chu tama ni sum inde tango re ten sa ya mo pa do ro ani ko ni ma shi nga ne ni ma ba je reng re Lama jane mingo ne mayongo mari. Bis mi de semje mango ta kilo ya mago. Ko tse de bo de gore. Kam dan yang go pasap to chombo to ya go ya man. Lama ya ko nyo tse de bo de ta go. Ani ma ta ja. Ta ben te ye ga ta. Chu ba chu ta chiga ma ta ro. Chiga ta chama chu chonga 아니 마도 답은 주 정화되는 요소. 아니 장바야 또 영어도. 아니 장바야 또 산인데 거야한테 한번에 주 땅에 땅. 이 예트 거라 자자 싸고야 너는 싸요 거는 땅에 되는 거를. 아니 주 땅은 주 땅. 태고를 종이 이제 semje 전 리자트 용 마다 동다 제고요. 아니 또가 자나 아니 거니마 자나 니마 야오 Chana ma dear. And Tonga do the Mandulum do it and got up Lavalia Papa in the choir zone. Tibet or Papa the Tango the Lavana is a coin. And they then doesn't got a turn and do that's the law shaggy. And then do the anti-Rican law don't go.
So the first thing you do when you cultivate a land is you water the field like 4 to 5 times, and then you have to see if the soil is correct. It shouldn't be too wet or too dry, and then you start plowing. And when spring arrives, you sow the seeds, and in 10 to 15 days the seeds germinate. So once they germinate, then you have to water the plants and then remove the weeds, and then you also have to guard the fields from wild animals. And then in autumn, when then you start the harvest, and when you are harvesting, you wear a skin on your skin of an animal on your hand as a glove, and then you start cutting the crops.
And where do you get the water, and how do you bring the water to the fields?
단다 싱가를 추 당기도 와라. 추디 가와네 라기요래. 추디 가와요래.
추만도 땅만도 농바 진지제 리체래 리. 이 가는 가도 벌레 강리 거는 날에 요래 베리. 강리 거는 진대 진내만 추용 거요. 양가에 중국 광추 도용가 되래요. 중국 진 로고들의 추 따다 와다 되래 추 도용 해라요. 콕콕콕 되래 추 먹었던 거. 진대 추된 거래.
So in Tibet, we have many snowy mountains around, and water runs down from the mountains. And then we also have spring holes everywhere.
Spring holes, I see. And who did the land belong to, and who helped you plant and harvest the grain?
근데 빨라 견주 싱가 답사 지어와라. 싱가 디 답수래.
다 싱가 답고 관에 세 답고 되어 좀 그래와. 아니 다 진행 싱가도 거의 매달에는 답고라는데. 세 주싱에는 저 답고 저는 이징가 답고래.
So the land, actually, it belongs to the Tibetan government, but then you are the owner and you can cultivate it.
And what do you do? What happens to the products that you grow?
아니 다 땐도 직 두기로 와주. 엔 땐도 디 가르치기요래 제라.
다 땐도 예소도 사야 단다 제 가르고야 나리. 저 녀들 잡고는 땐도 배제해요.
So that's for your sustenance, and also if you wanted to buy anything, you have to use the harvest.
The harvest.
Yeah.
Did all the land in Tibet belong to the Tibetan government?
Did the pönalaya saja kazuyene di pöshunglaya pöshung dapurwa? Yes.
Did the monastery own land as well, or only the government?
아니 곰발레게 사자 열외 이거 사자 상마 슝기래 pöshungire 간디래.
곰발레 고제라도 중게도 곰바게 로로도.
Yes.
곰바게 곰바거나 답제 곰바거나 미 타동으로 동고야지 마다제 동고도.
아니 미망라 곰바이게 사자 답주네.
곰바거나 곰베 타와티 이제 관도 답기도. 타타와 마고도 요만한데 아니 메단다 타와 메단데 타와요로 아니 메단가 로바자 답고요 아니 도도 돈도 주요.
The monastery also has lands of their own, And since there were not many monks in the monastery in my village, the villagers used to help the monks in the field work.
The Chinese claimed that the Tibetans were serfs who worked on the land. Was this how it felt to you and your family?
The Gamigi Karilaki Sinarwa, Tanda Pevatsu, Tangazu Shingala Lagachi Dinge Jorwa, Dunzu Gomba Shung in a Chigi Yopo race like your that Deyo, Teo, you want Teo race, I didn't double revela. Sugi Yopo, Pushungi.
Oh, Tade Tamu, Dayo, and Sadio. Tade Tama, Tamulai, but Tak I said you were. But then you tell you were that you were.
Yeah, you could say that they were like serfs because they were paying taxes.
So, did no individual owned any land in Tibet, only the government or the monastery?
That this is going to Pernalia Saja Yobaj Yorwa. The Misusugi Saja Chagi Yomarwa, Yamena di Pershungi Sajare, Yamena di Gombe Sajare.
Yeah, but that never said there was no Saka, there was no longer. Tadian and there was no Gombal top on the Zonga top on the Miza top on the color of the Gorgia.
Yeah, the actual owner is, of course, the Tibetan government, and the government has allotted sites to the individuals, to the district officers, and to the monastery.
To the monastery. When you look back on your life as a farmer, do you feel it was a happy life, or did it feel like a very difficult life, or what did it feel like?
The palagi nyama phele shubegi thusuji yorwa, di tensu chewa yina. Ane mitzi di kibu chik chogu duwe, mitzi kale kapu drabu ta mitzi kande drabu chogu duwe. Nyema mitzi di.
Maybe mitzi, chikana kalane kanga yore te, ni jane kibu shabu yore. Rano wala ran kuyi drabu chaya yore.
So, yes, firstly, it would look like we had a lot of difficulties. But on the second hand, we were very happy and we were free to do what we like to do.
What made you happy?
Yeah, we do used to complain when we had to pay taxes, like, oh, the day is very difficult, but we were happy.
And what made you happy about living in Tibet?
아니 빨라 기부르와 별을 슈디가네 기부 초고 열와라 기부 초고 열와 냐마 별을 슈베 까래야 기부레도와 한다 송에 제버이나 아니 기부 칸리치니 기부 삼기 열에
기부 가다가래
말 기부 칸리치니 기부레 삼기 되왜
기부레 랑가 농바랑 랑에서 니에가와 니신가 베르데 테랑아 데마도 Tatana had the Jala, Jamur, which is to me, Neta Yamato. This I think by Nepa Pukana, Kalakawado. You put another treated over your man, never had no way. So that gave me only the matter. Here I had to put in the Puranga, Company given an Arama, Puma, Putole, to buy yourself today,
Yes, because you were living in your own country and you are happy in your own country. Now, for example, this is borrowed land by the Dalai Lama. So you cannot build a house and pass it on to your children because this is not your land.
So in Tibet, did the father pass on his home and land to his children?
This is going to pay nalarwa. That's Baba Shiva Susu Sajada Kangba di Baba di Pula de Choguyorwa. Yes, he did. Yes, it is the same with tax too. What the father did, the son would do.
The son would do. How many generations of his family lived on that land?
아니 빨라키랑기로와 다 미랍 가져지 파게 슈요나. 정셉 디나라 빨라키랑기 빠베
Military Nadi here, Medo, Madako Medo, Miltonga take a marriage, go back to Tarvina, Madu go back to your
I cannot calculate how many years it would have been, maybe thousands, because just looking at the monastery, it's almost 1,000 years old. So I don't know about my forefathers, actually.
Good. You have to translate. Can you... Pala, can you please tell us something about when you were growing up, you lived just with your mother, and your father lived with another wife and family? Can you explain that, please?
Pala pugu chunju imbe kabla palagi pala amanyala ni kaka shuguyorwa. And pala kya amanyamdo de any palagi pala le kime shemba yorwe.
Amare. Kime pala kime shenda mendo. Ni bawa amanyama amacha to me yogodo ke namite. Nizande yogodo do. Kunyo chiwo mata kato mendo. Amade loji buta power to lo mabju ngaki do.
My father did not have any other wife. My mother was a servant to a family, and my mother and my father met very late in their age. Like my mother was about 40 and my father was 50 when I was born.
I see. And was it not possible for your father to marry your mother?
Ane palagi palayorwa. Palada amani ene changsa gene nyamdo deagi di chungyo marwe de tuguyo marwe.
Chungyo mare, chogoyo mare. Take care of the lawyer. That Mandu number there. Homoina Amatina Nando, Amnaya of the Homoina Puina Pout Nangido. My Lord, do but Amata was Javre. Lord Jason, the Pavanal day.
So it was not possible for them to live together because they were paying taxes to different people. To people, and in Tibet, if you were a daughter, you lived with your mother throughout your life, and then since I was a boy, I lived with my mother only up till age 7 or 8, and then I came and lived with my father.
I see. And how did the village accept your relationship with your mother and father? Was it acceptable that you live separately?
Ani palaki chongsep nala rwa pamani khaga digi yorwa la pamani khaga digi yorwa palagi pala amlani digi ene chongsep nala ya jikha samchu dinde khe yo marwa samchu dukja rabu dinde khe yo marwel
dinde khe yo mare je ta ngandu de do mi thonyo de jo chenda de sada yo nyamdo de ne da to go yong de yong yo re sa nga tong ma yu
sajan para le juya sungwe we 등수 독자로와 단다 빨라 암라 기 개바요 마로와 There was no problem where my parents are concerned, but it's wrong if someone is already married and then you know. My father had only me, and he did not have any other wives, nor did my mother have any other husband.
I see. And if your mother worked as a servant, what kind of family was that in such a small village that would have servants?
아니 palagi amachiorwa di mizanchigi yokpo ta yokposina da laga chingeroala di mizandi kawayer palag chongsep dinala rwe and mizandi sure
mizandi mana chola sende mana yu mana chola sende mana tala sende ngadu chui de jungyu la wore uge jemna man longma la de tala ine de labudo
kari lagi
tala se tala
sina kari de
tala se de tomba de mingre ana tala
my mother worked for the family called Manang Tagla.
Ana tala la bro ni bawa de na la de ine mana chusere se tomba de mingre
What was the difference between living with his mother and father?
Pala konglu chunju kabla ya ama nyamdo derwa amla nyamdo. Now DJ la pala nyamdo derwa. Dini para la keba da kariore amla nyamdo de du gangne da pala nyamdo debe kabla ya.
Me ngeba kona me lozo da zo ja do. Pupa to the form mado. Ta chunju bata ama da ma ama no ma to re ji ja ra ama da ja ra. Ani jine me thenda we ne ga re pa we ne pu ne pa we ta ga ne pu de pa go do. Pomo yi do ama ta ga ne pomo de pa go do.
So in Tibet, in such circumstances, the mother takes care of the child if he or she is really a baby, because she has to breastfeed him or her. And once they grow older, if it's a daughter, she lives with the mother, and if it's a son, he has to live with the father, and then he has to continue paying the taxes that his father did.
Ah, I see. Okay. Pala, you said you wanted to talk about how your life changed with the Chinese. Can you tell us when did you first notice the Chinese in your village?
Pala ge ta misi gyua droya jiorwa di kor sungyorwa la ta gyami le di gyua dro sungyorwa. Now and gyami khatuj pala thongswe.
Ta gyami ta ma lo chubje chugu le ani ngadu longwale ya ma ngari gat de le ya de sa ngadu longwale lo nga ni chugu ni le de ngadu longwale ya me le so ndo so ma de ma so le ni an dawat te ya ga de gunga lo ngari gat de ma wa cha re nge de le lo.
When I was about 18 or 19, I heard that the Chinese had come to Ngariga, it's another village. And then when I was about 19 or 20, they came to our village. But they did not stay long in our village, but headed to Dawa.
Okay. When they came to your village, what did they look like? What were they driving or carrying? How did they get there?
Gyami palagi longbana ledu gane. Pala siyorwa kunzu tuglo kanje kondo jik kari shweni leswe kari kido kunzuge.
Kudu koya ta kono jami jaya kono magda kono reja. Leje da te ngombo kono do.
Jangu sunguyo.
Ngombo. Ngombo de kono do magme je sebo kono de do. Magme je na pore sebo kono do. Ta go jeju ko kaja mawe la do. Tamuko magme le kala meza drama la go de. Ko magme menge kala mag meza drama la go do. Tamu tejo ko meze drama la go do.
Meze drama sina karina.
Ta ko jeme menge la go do magme. Ando ne magme la go do. Ane ko meze drama la go do. Ta dine je ko yo je. Ta ko yo kala ta ta te de sho do ko je ne mi la Tidu ko kaya do sai to ga ne ngado daw pa de kya do sai de ti la de te ge do tidu ko la de no me dang do tidu dang te do dang ni to dang ni de sum do te do.
The Chinese military, they had on khaki uniform, and the officers were in blue, and at that time they were lying to us. And they called the military people as Mise Doma. And they came on horses and mules, and they had their food with them. And when we transported their food for them, they paid us Chinese silver coins, 2 or 3 Chinese silver coins.
And what was the understanding of yourself and the other villagers about why were the Chinese coming to your village?
아니 빨라 견주기 정셉 나라 아니 미망 쪽에 가리쌈래 개미든주 가리치니 정셉 날래 용기요레스.
아다지 코베네 제메리 가데나 토링차 토는 삼바도 추첨버죠. 제 삼바제만 넣어서야 말이. 진 소용 나와는 넣어라. 아니 나와도 람바를 땡간 람바 개요라. 람바 개는 제 태대 제면 아주 태제도 있다래. 제레니 한 나와 받은 아주 개고래.
So the Chinese were traveling to Dawa, and when they traveled from Ngariga to Töling, they had to cross over the bridge to go to Dawa.
Go to Dawa. And what did the people feel when they saw these Chinese for the first time? What did they think? What did they feel?
아니 미망 저기 셈베날 카리삼레 게미 통두가네. 미망 저기 셈베날로와 다 게미 당부 통두가네 카리삼이요래.
다 제지 다 게미 레벨 랍데 셈베난 카리삼레니 가이.
I don't know what the people thought in their hearts, but they just said the Chinese have come.
데모데 데이레 마도 제지 가가야 코 가야 랍게 마레. 코관관도 마도 케주네 저레 케주데 케주게 케시레. 티마나 관데 케데 셰게만. 마도 하고 마레.
We just watched them go by. They had a translator who spoke a few words to us. Other than that, there was nothing. They just went their way.
당아도 제가 때문에 따는데 가나 당한도 강바 콜라 야리네 지나나 거도 또 거도 너저부터 제도와 또 장도 거잖아 소소래서 룩체테 사데나 하여튼 갈라서다 애들 장도 간지면 제게 레지나 놓게 야라지 하데 사데나 대지 재미지데 제도 와서 계지도 이제 나도 나야 좀
They rented a house in our village, and we went to see what they were doing and saw that they were cooking and then they were eating, and we just watched them do that.
I see. And when
each one of them came and then served themselves and they ate and they went.
And then when is the next time you saw the Chinese?
다 제일 안에 가두이 겸이 통을 발라기.
다 지나네 제일한테마 향도 들어오는 가서 아니 다 대바도 저는 없죠. 아무도 는 없진 저인데 지금 그저 가도 제가 담이 이제 저거도 참 제주도 이제 그거 때문에 군도의 향도 제로 야, 우리 데리래서 고속화도 도서. 다 지정하던 다와 동당 나랑다. 제 정배파 gembe도 유기 미타다 강가간 군도의 그 롭종이네 이제 대샤래.
So I think it was in the year 1956 or 57 when they started a committee at Shangze in the winter, and at that time for the propaganda lessons the fathers of the families were called.
And that was not his village, Shangze.
Shangze kaware tha ringlure pala chongsepne. You went 2 days. You rode a horse for 2 days to reach there.
Did his village have to go? Did the people from his village?
Palagi chongsepne midunzu dogo turwe Shangzela.
Manu no mare. Madu yune mendore. Madu yute thaje kondore.
So one person from our village went, and from Dawadzong 2 people.
Okay. And so when did his life begin to change, and how did it change because of the Chinese?
Ani pala mitsila gyuwa doya khandes gochu son ta gemilene.
Ta dina ngado gyuwa doya ta tegong gurja 다 도주 너주 앞에 얼굴랑도 보이죠. 제주 바다마도 다다 두는 거만랑도 만남 쳐고 다지 가지고 얼굴랑도 두는 다와다라가 더더라. 고동에 더리. 가지고 그도 두는
So
it 다 나도 가르쳐 그래. 나도 가르쳐. 제주 거에 녀보 효시리. 타베랑이라다 라왕이 타지 강바다 생각하는 생각을 타태되고 매분한되고 매데 타고는 건발하는 차도 버는 죄제라마레 계란랑에 잠도 동도 보는 아주 가라 말이 계란랑 계란을 거기 지우를 딜랍서 말이 거기 딜랍서.
So in 1959, Tibet was lost, and initially the monks of Tolingkampa were the first to escape from our village, and then when the monks had left, so we wondered as to what we should do, and the Chinese came and they said, you are free to do whatever you like, and then you don't have to repay your loans, and there is no tax that you have to pay, and you're free to practice your religion, but nobody should force you to do your religion.
And what did you think when you heard this kind of change and invitation from the Chinese? What did you think about that?
Ta gyami chogi ta dinde labwa ta na kyanzu ta dine kyanzu kushiri chechina digiri te ko mari dinde ta mende labyorwa in dinde labtu gane ani number jo sembala kharisamre
ta ngadu sembala kharisamre ngadu tongwa ngadu medre yorwa inda ngadu kaine rawa chejo ande ta ko ne dobo de majana ani ngadu gamba che che chona ta jango ro me je so malam ta je ngadu deyare.
So the people, we discussed among ourselves and even among our family members that if the Chinese would allow us to, not suppress us, and then we would just pray to His Holiness and stay back.
And then what happened?
Tandalovna is body came here near the Kongan Kaja. Tamado Jamaica to put down the Mando line material Jambo. Mando the Kari Nari and Ladi Jamija left side, Nevade. Nimani and Jalebu. Today, do the Mananga there was the Kaja. That in a Kaja, Children Gobja. Ta you go to Tambelo, Tango Mount Joyotanga. Ta kunga te mangdu jojo ta jojo ta jojo kai tang so kai tang so ta da gombe semje ya se do ne ma su so khora ra da angere ti ni te so te go re ti ne te semje so te la ne ma gombe semje wonde ne ra da chong go te bi
chongye le te rwe semje chongye do zo lo gombe semje te sha rwe
ne ma ko na Susu so in love. Susu the so on the love. So that in dead log, Jaja Kadulog, but Chuma Jaja same in the Tajala, Jala, Mato, Toto, Tidepa lay. And the Ampa Jojo, the measure, and Dinilla Mante, who mounted Jojo in the Tinilla Chazo.
So there was one person called Lobsa Yeshi who now lives in Camp 4, and I remember we discussed among ourselves and we said let's remain back in our village if the Chinese do not subjugate us, because we were very close to the Indian border. If you just cross over a snowy mountain pass for 2 days, within 2 days you would reach India. So in 1960, the revolution of democracy process was started by the Chinese. And during this time, the people who looked after the monastery animals, the Chinese said that they could keep the animals with them, but give back 5% of the animals. And these 5% of the animals were distributed among the very poor people.
And how did the people feel about this kind of distribution?
Semjen kashe ya to ani ya mission bal phat je dinde kosha gyabra ya mige ta dinde gyabtu kane ani pheba chogi semben ala kharis samire
kai ji ta koi ma du jojo ne ta gere jojo ko de yire laure ani singa ta me ka de ne singa pora go ye jabre ta de ko tere me ni pe do wa singba ne singbe tere de tengba chu bo singba dengba Shingba was a soon big do.
Shingba da any chick?
Shingba chubo in the Shingba chubo. Shingba dingba. Shingba uo. Tachubo in that Judah was landing. Pango Pong Joe did the way that good job made. Dimbe Juna Male Palamata can't you made. What in the
We thought now this is what is revolution of democracy. So what the Chinese did was they classified the people, and some were farmers, and from the farmers they were grouped into 3 different groups. It was the group, first group was the rich group, and then there was the medium group, and then there was the poor group. So the medium group, they were not touched. while they took away from the rich group and gave to the poor.
And what group were you in?
ane pala kirarwa singba khadi nanglolare singba chuga kyo dinga yorwa. I was among the poor.
You had such in a small village, only I think 5 families?
9.
9 families. How many of the families went in the rich category, and how many in medium, and how many in poor?
Pala kyonju chonset nala nangmi guyorwa nangsa.
Nangmi tena ne tongba tugang
guyorwa la. Ta gu na ne chupu nanglo lo gyami khazu lure, ne khazu dingan lure, khazu kyo nangla lure.
Ta chupu nangla su ngadu bomba tawa de yore. Te yu chu yo kore. Kola ngada lezap se mingda de. Ngada lezap. Ta ngadu de yo ngada se do ko. Ane le che tsabre se lezap re. Ta yu ma dinga se ta ni ama ke nang chola se de. Ko yingma dinga nang jo de. Ta yingma dinga te do sum de yingma dinga do jo. Je mata ke ta ji na lo ya to nga to. ane te chogo ko na kar ja lunyo tang re. ane chu jong san de tong re. Je ba nga de ja ne jong ne te re. Te joma ko ta ni lunyo tang re. Ya na lo ni yo lo lunyo tang re. Te tang ne ta ko te ma jo san me ne ko mi ni ya re ja ta ni so ta che mi ni che
So in the rich family was the one monk of the monastery, because he was in charge, a leader in charge. So he was classified as a ngadak terim, that is in the leadership group. And there were 3 families, one of which was my mother's employer, who was among the medium families. And there were 5 poor families in the village. And then the rich family, they had to divide the yaks and horses among the poor families.
And when the poor families received these yaks and horses, what was their reaction? What was your reaction?
Ta lungba nane mizan kyo jiyorwa, kyo donzula ya ta da ya dende goshe jene ma dewarwa mizan chupu khaji de. Ani kyo go donzu sembe nala kharisam yona.
Te jama de kante ngada ja tongba de ngi ta de tevre. Ta go ma de ta ngama ngade ta jo jo re. Ta go roram ja no samadai chu.
So my neighbor and I was given one horse together, and I thought, the Chinese were now doing, implementing the revolution of democracy.
And it sounds like you liked the revolution of democracy?
And pala manzu gyur tangdu gane ani gawu chungswa.
Teju gawu chungja. Gawu chung na ngado lo tok dere. Phongab jung go shwa dawa. Ta ba lenda shwa na ngado ha koyo mare. Tujuda be gunga ma to koyo mare. Gunga ko ma to je tange na ngado bole. Ane ko shege.
So yes, I was happy at that time, and we had no knowledge at that time that Lhasa was lost. So it was only in the winter of 1960 that we came to know about it.
How did you find out that Lhasa was lost?
Ane nganzu pyoshor chaim ba pala khantis chine ha khoswe.
Ta jumane ta pyoshor jeme pyoshor ta kundu peta kundu jaji na kai setire ko.
So we heard very late that that Tibet was lost and His Holiness had left for India. So in the spring of 1959, that is in the 2nd or 3rd month, the monks of Tuling Monastery had already left. And then later we heard that they had gone to India because His Holiness had also left for India.
And what meaning did it have to you that Lhasa was lost and His Holiness had left? What did that mean about this revolution?
아니 다 발라 다 제라 거와 다 한가주 페쇼 차레 겸그름부지 치균낭 차레 스야갈이야 엔딘데 발라 고두가넨 발라기 다 셈베나리야 다 카리다우직 텐스웨다 된다
아니 다른 저 이론이 가도 그게 되는데 아니 가도 당한도 도고네 그 아버지 샤는데 내도 태고님 가도 벌주도 고님 자가라요 딘 자는 자라요 말이 아주 살레레 도고 말이 아주 농바 또 ngari네 레자 파돌라 야라 따따 야케도로 다우송고도 야만도 다우송고 아니 야요 다우송만 데리고레게요 말이 자가라요 타말람다레 자야냐 말람다 야는 아주 재미있네 자모는 이제 간 자야 자면 가wan 자그래 지금 아주 이제 보여 말이 따자요 당하는 말람다도 거바지 하나 거바지라 말람다는 아주 되게 자주 타자주 보이는 자라는 보는 쪽으로 저기 보아서 좀 많이 골라봐.
So, as I told you, I spoke to my friend Lobsang Yeshi, and we agreed that if the Chinese were good to us, we would stay back. Because in Tibet, we never had the chance to go to Lhasa or see His Holiness the Dalai Lama. You know, from my village to Lhasa, to go there, it would take us 3 months to go and 3 months to come back. So we had no hope of seeing His Holiness at all. And we also thought, even in India, we might not have the chance to see His Holiness. So we thought, you know, if the Chinese would allow us to practice our religion, then we would pray to His Holiness and then pray to our monastery and stay back.
Did anything change between you and the rich family or the medium rich families? Did any attitude change? And yes, and were the Chinese there while this was going on?
And pala da mizan chupu dinde da ding ding dinde yorwa and number chogi para laya chik samlo tan cho da chik chik laya gyuwa da droswe thu gyun to ne pa chu thu dinde chidu gane
당고도 당원 조란 로마도 야보 데도 다지 주고 다와지게 타고 자만 메그로 자테 자마데 세타 타고 농고 주고 당고도 요고 앞에 라베데와세 테오레테 타고 찍고 찍게 샤레 콜토르지 조금 메이고 테토르지 마조자 코카나마 자이네 장마데 조조 제추 당조 고도 샤레 당안도 내지 조도 미만나 tunde지 조도 야가제 냠도 지주고도 당가다 레다 콜토 야사미도.
So at first there was no change, but later the rich monk, he was segregated and his servants were sent out and he was left alone, and we were not allowed to mix with him. And he was given the task of planting trees, saplings, and then watering them. But we common people were allowed to mix among ourselves.
I see. Were there Chinese watching that you did not talk to this rich monk?
아니 number 2 단다 잡아 축부 지어와 딜라 대화 지축이요 말와 개미게 엔 대화 치기 되vel 아니 콘주기 따디기 요르벨
네 다고 다 메와진데 우원데 양고 맹다 tuk당 맹다베 대자에서 우주니서 대 맹도 따 엔콘도라 라베라 한테 데데 또게 지게 저는 거 더와셔 지게도 와.
Yes, they were definitely watching because there were certain poor people who were given the post of leaders. And these poor people who were given leadership posts, they were asked to watch the people if they were interacting with this monk. But at that time, they did not tell us anything.
They didn't.
But they watched.
They watched. And And okay, so you were in Tibet. Still in your village from 1960 to 66. How did your life change in those 6 years?
Tapala jikdong gogye thukju ne thukju re thu ba the pheon al shuyor wa ta gemile chawe jele ya en di na le ya ngema da ma de be mizile gyuwa khande da which dose
you were the better to the quadrant that take to you tamane take the part of lodging and other la chijo ko chuda lave maraka and then I don't know what Koya, Shinga, so she got up there. Kaya Lago Mare and the Toto and the Soju, some day and the Soso Pay that days away. Thank you for the old some of the Charles. Tajina to do the rolo, Dawa Tambina, Tapenda Tambo, the Jina Nuata. And they got their boy out on the corner. And then who wanted that on the corner, shower to the shadow. And the Yama laughter. That Yako Babaji was a take over here. That was to the little, that they don't get to the little.
Oh, the change was drastic. However, from 1960 to 65, we did our own work. And the Chinese did not tell us anything. But then towards 1966, in the first Tibetan lunar month, they held a meeting for the poor people. And then we were ordered that the monastery had to be brought down.
And then what happened?
Nita gomba shigure slavra jikton gobye thukju ri thugi na la ya. Ani kharichiso.
Ta de gomba shigu da go ka jana. Tangandu lungo competition, Tangandu the Shigure, the Lavare, Tangandu Tumbi, the Shig Tobio Mare, and after changing Gomate, after changing Gomate, Tinian Another Majita, and then telling the Zavas and Adriana Tomani to use nearly, to use the me good level. Me good level, Taco to the own the Zoya. And it is doing my mother meet Tangan Rosa the bad day. Rosa day and the Tamani that I love so. And lazy, Jimmy lazy, shawl of those. That comes here in Mangazako, and then I do you. Tamani, my day, ya last on, so last on, they said, shoot on to me, they kind of yoke. After they allowed the boy. And that showed the soul level with the Tataya.
So the people were ordered to bring down the monastery, but we did not. So we avoided them for like 1 to 2 weeks. And then about 9 people were brought from 2 other villages nearby. So when these people came, we knew that they were going to bring down the monastery, and so we left for our nomadic area. All of us went there, and then the Chinese sent messengers for us to come down. Since we knew that we had to participate in bringing down the monastery, we gave them excuses like we had lost our animals and we were searching for our animals, and we did not go back for 1 week. And when we did, we found that the monastery was dismantled.
Doing the man of Tiny the chick Jimmy Ledger, Kajo did the door, chick Gary did do. Jerry Contigo, Consul I own make the Amdo should have had my end love the
The number 2, Nanda the Ma Pedi Doxan and Ma Pedi and Gomba Shitsarva. Gomba Shitsadue.
She's under that, Himasum Rodo, or hearing Himasum Rodo. They do the under Gomba Camera Chamo, Tina, Tibetan Church, and Tina Chamanga, Himasum Rodo, Tikula, Nimajing at the Tibetan Maton. Tibetan, that. When we took the Tato, the Kudak, the show better than Shera,
So from the 9 people who had come from outside, 7 were common people like us from the other villages, and 1 was a Chinese official and 1 was a translator. So when we returned home, it was 3 days since the Gompa was dismantled, and we could see the smoke coming out from the burning wreck. It was burning, and for 4 to 5 days the smoke was still there because they were burning the tankas and other scriptures.
And what was the reaction of yourself and So the day we came back to the village, there was a meeting that night. And from Tholing village, there was one woman called Ngawang Hamo. And she stood up and told us, "See, we have destroyed your monastery. It was the monastery who suppressed us. And the people used to say that the deity is so powerful that if we do something, it would kill us. But see, I'm not dead, and I'm the one who brought down your monastery." And where was this person from? She was from another village called Tholing village. And what did the people in your village, what did they think and what did they feel when they heard this statement? Aneta aja ngawal hamulange digeta nga nge gomba shin tinde labrwa tha mege tata nga shimindu was ro nga ji gomba shin gomba nga zu dukja che yor was tinde labdu gane ani number 2 ta translate bi mi changmen senbe nala ani khari chen
ni de mi tama senbe nam ta ngoya ma do ma khaye mo tinde ni gomba shin du ta ko de ro ani tro ja pe ben ma tro do 안가야게 저도 마도 아니 저도 메가가 망청 물게 돼요. There was nothing to do but cry. And I heard that when the monastery was being destroyed, the old women, they tried to flee away when this was happening, but they were caught and brought back. The old women from where were trying to flee away? Of the village where the monastery was being destroyed. What? But I was not there when the monastery was destroyed, but I heard that there is one old woman of our village who ran away for 2 to 3 kilometers when the monastery was being destroyed, but her son went and brought her back later. Let's see. Why do you think that the people from the other village came and agreed to destroy your monastery? Number 2 lungba gomba chiorwa di shinge dunzu thöling da saja shemba ne chu yungrwa konjo 가르치는 용네 데 number 2 lungba la gomba torga le da konjo soju de ko re geme ta ne ko ngadu soju kodo ya soju se xian ne de la go xiang ne de la ani da wa xiang dong wo xiang na zo thöling da min dong wo yu da dong wo som de xiang de zo lo. So these people were sent by the Chinese. And the villages of
Tsapra, Thurling, and my village, they came under one group. So these people came to destroy our monastery.
They came from 3 different villages?
No, 3 villages came under the same shang or the same group.
Got it.
Yeah, so since the people of my village were not willing to destroy the monastery, so villagers from 2 other villages came to destroy because everybody came under the same group.
Do you think that they were pressured or threatened by the Chinese to destroy the monasteries?
This digane ta tanda gomba torga yungge jiorwa. Konsuleya gyami gi torga jo gugi yor res labiona.
Ada do ta tamu ko lo do chanda. Higore to resi. Te da kon do e kon do te mi leje. Te jang do leje chigore labdo wa. Ani kon do para ta nyoro. Ada ngama chambo tinde lomo de tomana jo tinde
So they were people of the poor families, and they were given authority by the Chinese, and they were trained to go and destroy the monasteries by the Chinese.
And how can you describe your monastery? Was it very large or small? And what kinds of objects were inside the monastery?
Pala kyunzu lungbe gomba thanda torgyo jiorwa. Thanda gomba torgyo jiorwa pala lungbale. Gomba te chimpo yore, gomba khande yore, gomba nanglo la khande yore, gomba te jiksona la khande yume.
Gomba chimpo odu yore. Tan don dile chere. Gomba dile che dowa. Gomba ni yore. Bajo tik diga yore. Tik dile che yore. Gomba de la ni yore. Te taja tende taja som hiz yore. Tawade je gomba tawde ni chawde. Ne gomba kondo koje de chama de ona ya de gomba chama odu yore.
It was quite a large monastery, and there were 2 temples, and the hall was much larger than this. And there were 3 to 4 dormitories for the monks, which were 2-storied high.
How many monks were in this monastery?
Ani gomba dina thaba khajis yore.
Tha tambo ta ta ma ju ta ju ta khana do duin do. Adina ga yin ta lo so ga ye tong so. Ka ta do ni de ta ta de. Te ga yin ni gemi le do te ta ma ja de yare. Tambo duin yare.
So before the revolution of democracy, there were about 6 to 7 monks in the monastery. So after the Chinese came, some of them became lay people, and some of them ran away.
6 to 7 monks in a large monastery.
Ta gomba chimbu shius dwa diga dile che lana chimbu rwa. Taba tup dunj ma shio marwa. No, there were not many monks.
No.
Mango ta tongo yo mata. Nima taba tongo tere yo ma zom ma do sa chura ma do. Ta taba ko mi lega cha cha so ji ga ta che la che de.
Because the people could not make that many offerings if there were more monks.
Right.
So these monks, they did the usual work that the lay people did.
They did the same work, okay. And then what happens next? After the monastery is destroyed, the people are crying. They're very sad. And then what happens to the village next?
And ta gomba tor charwa, number pala kyunju ma phe charwa, droksane, ane me tunju mu de ma shio marwa. Ta di chela ni khari chungre.
Ta ji je ne je ka de dan da ma ba da ma da ta mo na go ji re tu ba ta mo ni wa sum ba ji ba da sum ji ji de de sing ga da ta tam ji na yi de da re da nga na nga do tro yo.
So the monastery was destroyed in the first month. Then for about 3 to 4 months, we just lived as usual, working on the farms. And then in the 5th month, we escaped. We lived, worked as usual, working in the fields and pretending to stay back. But then we left one night in the 5th month.
And about how many people left with you?
And mi khatsis nyamdo theyong be pala nyamdo. In my group, there were about 52 to 3 people, including children.
And what was behind the decision to leave? Because now you had the animals were given to the poor. You had your own life. You could still live your life. Why did you decide to leave?
Palakyunzu tö goyagi gyumzen karila chaina kaisina ta mi gyobu cholaya semjeni gosha gyawiyorwa and susu khandes degi yomendi de chogu yorwa yamige ani tö goyagi gyumzen karila thune ani tö yagi chashi tingna
ngado to ngado minga chungada to thamijunju sodan deje ta ngado kai to goya karla ta ngado temewa chapu da soda to mana me chochi jomewa and today, then take you all on the devil on the Jamon. Take him the half on the Jamon on the Jaga to say a photo. And then it says,
So, while there were 52 people together in the escape, there were about 36 who stayed back. But for us, there was no reason to stay back because the monastery was gone. There was nowhere where you could go and pray. And we also heard during that time that we could see His Holiness the Dalai Lama in India. And we did not want to live under the Chinese anymore.
Why did you not want to live under the Chinese?
And gyami wala denyi matro ya di karila chare. So the Chinese had become worse, there was no freedom of religion. So why should we stay back when he told us that the monastery has to be destroyed?
Initially, they told you there was going to be freedom of religion. And that changed?
Tangbo gyamiledi gane kranz church yala deba yor kushiris lavrwa ta rawa yoris lavrwa en jela kunju gyua tangne en chola rawa menge surwa. That's what they did. There was no freedom of religion. So then we had no faith left in the Chinese.
I see. Was anyone arrested by the Chinese or taken into prisons by the Chinese in your village?
Ane palakyunju chongsep nalaya ane sujiklaya ta gyami gi jinson che tsonga nala ti dinde che suwe.
Tawate tama chubuji lavdo. Kola kaje na kari lagwe na sondu sogore ngado ane ko me ko kan chibu kaje chege yare. An tawati chiga je kari na ko ko yang so mi hizo. Ta ko kawone do ejere na amoko. Tawate ngado to na kare cheno yo marwa.
So nobody was arrested except that the rich monk, he was interrogated many times, but we do not know what happened because we are not allowed to mix with him. And later, the monk committed suicide by jumping over a cliff.
That same monk, the rich monk? Wow. What did the people think when they heard that he committed suicide?
Chabadi kurang rangshik yabrwa yang lama chomni. Endi kodu gane ene mimang do sembe na karisamyuna.
Ta mimang do karisamyuna ta ngazo me ta bonyama je tsaga dore. Ko gonda yare gonda ne shoge mando khala jemi ke teng ngazo hingata ture. Hingata gan ta so de ngata le ta tegere. Singa savata gore singa savata te ngazo sadong tende ma ho savata. So lenga dore. Sen shoge so lenga do ko mendo. Anti nyama tega dore tega jemi leje nyere. Jeri ni da aja kai je sumye. Ate da ngaze mimang kai ni sum ke de mangje chigala ate de. Mi jinga de ni de ta la dore. Se mara chama gongda ka de yang chom de te tongare.
So in fact, when we couldn't find him, see him, we went to look for him. Because the Chinese had told us that since he was made the in-charge representative, that we had to go and get the seeds from him. So when we went there, he was not there. So we went to look for him, and then found that he was dead.
I see. So, I want to ask just briefly, what was your journey like when you left with your 52 people? What was that journey like?
Ta pala mingap chu nga ni nga sum jinyam do le ya chu thwe phe rwa ya ga le ya di thwe phe tu di khande langa la khande da chung so
langa la kwa yong tu da o chung thai ji do kang he da ya re ni ma chung do kang ga la yong go re ani sem je de ma wo hi do ya ta lo sem je ma wo hi thai sem je la ma yo ge de ja jo ma me te te ani ga do me ja ma me ke ko sa sa ne di mongo da pa pe ma da ke yo re ma do ja ni ma yo do ja na pa so cham me.
It was not too bad, though we had to walk over 3 days in snow. And many of our animals died in the snow. And when we reached the Indian border, the Indian army was there. We gave them our animals, and they brought us down here.
Down here, okay. I understand that you returned to Tibet in 1986. Can you tell me what was that experience like to go back?
아니 빨라 양교 직동 국기 계주 겨툴이야 별을 직패도와 안디 칸데 저스 춘세
타지리 당아도 제레 로니 유도도 아니 양아도 버는 가도 빠지고는 밀랩송 단다 도지데네 두가데 양아도 동반에 민이 좀 랩송 아니 거기는 빈자데 대자 라서 아니 가도 야도이 빈자 도가도.
So after about 20 years, 2 or 3 people from my village, they came to attend the Kala Chakra, and then they told me that some of my relatives were still alive in the village, so I went there to see them.
And what did you see? What was the same and what was different about your village?
타 양교 타 총셉라 페르와 디 페디가네 녜메다 탄다 페교 디 파라라야 아니 만자 카리드웨스
만다는 다 만다는 망고 저자 예 내가 예정 건데 뿌려 매어 저자 야 사원도 된데 저자.
Many changes. What was there earlier was no more, and what wasn't there, new constructions had come up.
And what did you feel in your heart when you saw these changes?
아니 빨라 셈베나라야 초와 칸데시키에서 다 교와 돈주 통두가네. So I felt that those who lived there are not doing too badly.
Okay, good. So we're going to now want to thank you for all this, for sharing your story with us. We have
Manager don't medo. Tanga pija de ko bu pija ni aja de punga da pomo sume pomo game de le de pomo chunga ni da punga da po le de ta aja ko na tong ja project tong ja senga ga tok so.
So what is sad is that they do not know how to practice the religion, and there were many children of my elder sister who were there, and I was able to meet them.
Oh, that was nice. What advice would you like to give the next generation of Tibetan children?
아니 빨라기로와 한당한주 배바 슈누여와 로충아. Dua lochunga da dele yori pionale yori chigela yorwa dunzuleya lapten karinange lapcha karikyenge
lapcha jangan jeda lapje jepto ngal de leba mejo de samlo jo te jegal ta tingane kha ko amjo oja se the ja theng me lobjong khira chi to ja me do ina de ta ya wo chore ngama ga do lomol de Jamie do that another meal over Cherry. Then the Tajan was the Tibetan in a run along, Tachamore, and there I am. So the number region did a number.
So I am not intelligent enough to give advice, but I would say that it is the Chinese who brought us to this situation, and the youngsters must remember that. And then, even though you are happy in the exiled country, you must continue your religion, culture, and culture and language.
And what?
No, do not lose your culture, your tradition, most importantly, your religion.
And what is it about the religion of Tibet that you think is so important for the children to know?
So the Buddhist Dharma teaches about this life and the next, but I cannot say much on the Dharma because His Holiness says, and there are many holy lamas who give teachings, so the children are literate and they must read the scriptures and practice them.
Okay. How was it? We're now completing our interview. How was it for you to share this story of your life with us? How was that experience?
So it's been very good, and I know that I will be gone in a year or two, but my story will live on. And every generation will have to pass, and I'm very happy that I could tell my story to you, and thank you very much. So what I have told you is the truth, and you are permitted to use it anywhere you want. There's no doubt at all.
So if this interview was shown in Tibet or China, would this be a problem for you?
No problem at all. Nothing at all.
Can we use your real name for this project, or do you want to use an alias name?
You can use my real name. There's no need to change it.
Okay.
The name of my monastery is Manang Chanjuk Ling.
Manang Chanjuk Ling. Okay. Pala, thank you so much.
I want to thank you very much for what you are doing for Tibet.
It is our pleasure and our honor. Thank you. Don't go yet. We have a present.
We
have a present.
Here
you go.
Yeah.
You should
go.
Thank you.
Ini pala de
Ah.
tu se shuen di na ngui de sti ba.
Thank you.
Na la so.